Hey, it's Rob Lightfoot, proud two-time alum of Rowan University.
And I'm Jessica Kennedy, also a two-time Rowan alum. And you're listening to
Beyond the Brown and Gold.
Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM presents Beyond the Brown and Gold, a show that highlights the lives and memories of Glassboro State and Rowan University alumni. Now, here are your hosts, Rob Lightfoot and Jessica Kennedy.
On today's show, we have a dynamic father-son duo, Johnny Drinks.
They were so boring. I mean, they were just so quiet. We had to really stretch these guys to talk.
I know. So we have John Rondi, class of 1989, and Johnny Rondi, class of 2018. An amazing duo. You've probably seen them all over social media. They're followed by millions across their platforms. They cover all kinds of things. They make cocktails. They do life advice. So many yummy foods they're showing on their accounts.
They have about 2.8 million more people than we do on the social account, on the one social account.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
They're a pretty big deal. We got to spend the whole day with them, which has been really a fun time. So you are not going to want to miss out on what they're up to now and how they got there. And this is the first time we've ever had anybody who's kind of in the influencing space on the podcast. So it was a real treat to kind of see the backside of how that all works.
It was a little confusing. One's John, the other one's Johnny, and you got to figure out who's who.
Yeah.
So
in the interview, John is dad, Johnny is son.
Yeah.
But we had to establish that this morning because I was worried we were going to confuse the listener.
Put the subtitles on for this one.
Johnny Drinks. So we are coming off a high right now.
Well, we aren't. He is.
Well, yeah, I feel a little bit like I'm feeling the high too. Yeah. So today in studio we have Johnny Drinks. We have John Rondi, dad. I've been referring to you as dad and mom, your wife today, yep. And son Johnny. But dad John just took batting practice with the baseball team.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. I feel like I should have paid for that. Like, it was Make-A-Wish Foundation or something.
Oh yeah, Coach. We're going to pass it on to Coach Dixon.
Maybe we should do that as a fundraiser. We can pass that on.
That's what should do. Right? We should make that an alumni thing. Like you fundraise for that, and you get to take batting practice on the field with the team.
You're hired.
Yeah.
There's a position for him, right?
Easy. Well, is there a position on the team? I don't know. The swings, I don't know about those swings.
They're all right.
Okay.
He's a little disappointed he didn't hit the fence.
I know. He wanted to hit the fence out there.
What did you think watching dad take batting practice? Because you've never seen him play on this field.
He hit most of them. That's all I cared about.
Yeah, he did pretty good. Not bad
like he knew what he was doing, yeah.
You said 30 years since you've hit a ball like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty impressive.
Very happy with my performance. Tomorrow, I'll feel the,
You'll feel the pain tomorrow. I expect a text tomorrow, an update, as soon as you roll out of bed.
They had the aluminum bats when you played before? Because there was a year or two where they had wooden bats here.
I played actually with aluminum and I played with wood.
Okay.
But obviously aluminum's a lot easier.
Yeah, you can ding it.
A lot more fun you can have with an aluminum bat, that's for sure.
So let's talk about your journey to Rowan. Well, it was Glassboro State, how you got here, were you local, and how did you wind up playing baseball here?
So interestingly enough, very short story is I went to Verona High School. There was a gentleman there who was my teacher. He was a graduate of Glassboro. He played baseball. He was an academic All-American. His name was Frank Albano. Frank Albano played on the 78 and the 79 the championship teams, Division III World Championship teams, both those years. So all I knew about going to college was playing baseball because I knew I wanted to, but I knew the success of the program. So he introduced me. I didn't look anywhere else, and I came down here, and the rest was just my journey through Glassboro, and I loved it. I met some great people. One of my better introductions turned out to be the head baseball coach, who was the athletic director. His name is Dr. Mickey Bruglia. So Dr. Mickey Bruglia took a liking to the Italian from North Jersey, and we had a great relationship. And so I could go on and on about that as far deep as wide as you like, but that was probably, as I reflect back on my time, one of the more poignant and profound experiences I could have as a young, impressionable person.
But you're coming to the school from North Jersey. You're coming down to the sticks. There was no internet where you could check the school out back then.
Nothing.
You just sort of came down and
very good point, because Frank said, I want to introduce you to Coach Bruglia. He told Coach Bruglia about me. I put my application in. they needed to tweak it a little bit to get me in. Marvin Sills was
yeah.
head of the
Yep.
admissions office. He became one of my very good friends. And so I learned early on by way of Mickey Bruglia how to network. And he introduced me to all these people. But P.S., the shortest story is, yes, they got me in, and there was no campus tour with my parents.
And the parents said, "Get this guy out of here." What were they doing? Send him south.
I honestly think the first time my father saw this place was when he dropped me off, and then he left, and that was it. There was
Did he ever
nothing.
come back?
I don't recall. No, I to watch baseball games, yes, but not like, hey, you need some food, you need some money. No, it was not like that.
Up and out.
You were literally on your own. He paid for school, and I remember he specifically said, "Here's a couple bucks for whatever else you're going to do," and the rest was up to me. And so that's where Bruglia said, "You're going to become part of the work study program." And I worked, and I met again everybody: Richard Wacker, Coach Wacker, right? Mark, Coach Lisa, Tony Lisa from the swimming team. I was immediately infused into this campus because I
Really heavy in the athletics end.
heavy.
Yeah.
So much so that, again, as a freshman, I was part of the work study program, and I met then the seniors, and they were like, Coach Bruglia said, "Well, you're going to work with these guys." And the seniors were like, "Well, why? Why this kid?" And he was like, "Because that was the deal. Like, I needed to make money, and they couldn't give scholarships, so I needed to work to make money." P.S., the seniors taught me the ropes. I worked the football games. I worked basketball games. I worked tournaments. Anything I could do to make a few bucks, we did. And that's where I met all these great, coaches and leaders. Coach Gilmore from the soccer team. I worked as many hours as I could because I enjoyed eating.
Yeah. They always feed the athletes, I'm sure. That's the first thing. Now, but you came in declared as a business major?
Yeah, I came in as a business major, just small business management. Yeah.
Was that just like your side hustle was studying while you were here? Like athletics was your main thing?
I didn't even see the inside of the library. I don't think I didn't study well.
No.
I was not the student.
Okay, that's
No,
fine.
I navigated through, I survived. I got my grades. I graduated in 4.5 years while playing a sport, and that was it.
And so where did you live when you were here?
I lived over at Mullica also. So 1 year we just went by there, right? Went out to Mullica. And then I met my wife, Jennifer. She was at Evergreen. So Evergreen and Mullica are right there, across the courtyard between one another. 1 year there. And then I went, as a sophomore, I went to the Crossings. And I went to D Building. And
that's where all the fun was had, right?
D Building was the hub.
Yeah.
C and D buildings were the hub. H and I on the other side, they were like, they tried to, but they couldn't compete with us. So we were always the main hub. And interestingly enough, then my wife Jennifer, now as a sophomore, as a junior, she came over. She moved into D Building.
So where did your prof sweetheart story start? Was it when you were meeting in the middle, or when
you didn't know this story?
No, I've been so listen all day. I know
great.
that they're prof sweethearts, but I haven't asked any prof sweetheart questions,
which is killing her because she's the romantic on the show.
I love. Me and my husband are prof sweethearts. We do a whole segment on prof sweethearts. So tell us about the time you met Jen and.
Yeah, sure.
Because obviously now you have 4 kids.
I just brought John over there.
Hey, Johnny, we're going to get to you in a second.
You want to tell the story as you're rendered? You just saw the whole thing unfold.
You should tell your story.
Love it.
So my story is real simple.
Poor Johnny over there's hit like a bump on a log over here. We're going to get to
this over and over.
He's got a great
got it.
story.
No, we're going to get to him. We're going to get to him. But we have to go with the original.
He didn't meet his wife here.
No, didn't.
So
you never know. Maybe you did.
I got to. Right.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah, see?
Coming
Look at
back
that.
now.
Full circle ending.
Love it.
I'll come back if that happens.
So Mullica, Evergreen, courtyard in between. I'm looking out my window, and I see Jennifer, and I see her parents. I knew it was her parents. I didn't know her parents. It just, you could tell she's with her parents. They're throwing a Frisbee around. And I'm like, this is my chance.
Just like that? Just out the window?
I knew her from afar, and I spotted her. And I was like
you've seen her before. You saw her a couple times.
I saw her walk around.
Yeah,
you knew. I'm from North Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
The look of a North Jersey person.
You're like, those are one of my
80s,
people.
Well, then in the 80s was very distinct.
Mm-hmm.
Dark hair, big hair, Italian. I was like, okay, gotta go find out. I went to the courtyard, and She threw the Frisbee over her father's head, and I conveniently picked it up and walked over.
Meet cute.
Yep. And said hello and introduced myself to her father.
Smart.
Because
She was an Italian girl. You
I
got
was
it.
destined to sell, so I immediately was selling myself. And literally, that was our first introduction. And she was very, like, hesitant about,
was
yeah,
not
this is
interested.
John. Yeah, this is John. It was kind of like an Olay, and we'll see you later, because she wasn't into me.
But
Not
she
at
knew
all.
you already.
She knew me from different parties and
She
stuff,
blew
but
you
she was
off.
not introducing me. She had a boyfriend at the time.
Oh, see, now that's where it's going.
Is he from North Jersey too?
He was from her hometown. He went to Rutgers.
Oh.
But he's here today. Let's bring him. No, I'm just kidding. He's not here. He's not here.
He's not here
But that would have been cool. That would have been a cool part of this show. I can tell you that.
But that was the short of it. It was a great first experience, and from there I stalked her for the remaining 4 years or 3 years of school, and
Appropriately
I wore
stalked,
her
let
down.
me just say.
So you didn't. She went to the library. You didn't. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not sure she went to the library, but she definitely studied and probably put herself more. She applied herself a little.
And then what did she do post GSC?
So she went, and she was an education major, so she was a teacher. And when you graduated in 1990, there was not a lot of opportunity for educators. There really was none. So she became a private school teacher, and as a private school teacher, making $12,000, $13,000 a year, that was pretty much the gig. And we got married in 1990. And then, I had a job, she had that, and then we started we had our first child, my daughter Victoria, in 94, and then she became a mom, and that was it.
So let's see, your mom. I'm going to ask you this story. What do you think about your dad finally got it for your mom? Because she was not bothered by him at first.
Well,
so did he keep pursuing her? Is that the story?
I've heard this story too.
Okay, let's hear this one.
I think it's the same thing, like the cat and mouse game, and she wasn't budging. And then finally, one time, he was officially over it, and he was dancing with another girl at a
That's
party.
always the way.
Right.
And she went up to.
Did you do that on purpose?
No, I think he was officially done.
I was done. I was
And
like, all right,
he
screw
went
it,
up.
I'm done.
She went up to one of his friends, and I was like, "What is he doing?" And she's like, "Well, Jen, what do you expect? Like, enough is enough. You know what I mean? If you want him, you got to go after him. He can't keep chasing you." And so I think it was either one of her friends or his friends.
No, it was Stephen Maxwell. I think it was Stephen Maxwell or Mike Farina. Yeah.
that said enough is enough.
Yeah.
So
I love
that was
it. So a result of your prof sweetheart story is you had Johnny. What's
we
your
go.
birth order?
I am the second oldest.
You're the second oldest. So you came after Victoria.
I did. She's 30. I'm 28.
Okay. Now, was Rowan a big part of your childhood? Did you know a lot about
Did he just drop you off and leave you here and never come back and see you again?
No, I didn't start here. So I started at Sal Bay Regina playing football. Was gonna go play football. Had a pretty nasty injury leading up to my season. So I went up there. I was injured. Couldn't do anything. I was like filming the football team, which was terrible.
Not what you wanted.
Yeah, like super depressing. And I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Left, came back, went to Montclair for a semester. Didn't really know where I wanted to go. My dad was like, why don't you just go to Rowan? Like, it's a cool school. It's solid. We know the area. And I was like, okay. I had some friends down here. I didn't really know much about like frat life. And so my buddy was like, I'm in Sig Pi. You room with me. You're into all the parties, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that sounds good to me. Get down here. And then I realized if you don't rush, you can't go to all the parties. You know what I mean? You're not just letting any dude in. And so I didn't rush his frat, and he was like, yeah, I can't get you into all these parties. And so now I'm sitting there as a sophomore like, why did I come here, joined the wrestling team, met one of my still best friends. I just officiated his wedding here, and then got involved with his frat a little bit, and then kind of acclimated to the place a little bit better. But it was more so like I just had nowhere else to go, and why not pick the place that I'm a little familiar with.
You also came in as a business major, right?
Yeah, I think that was like a no. Like I didn't really know what else to do, and I was like, let me just pick the easiest major that I could think of right now, and that happened to be business.
See, no, I don't think that would have been the easiest major to pick.
Really, I picked wrong. It was pretty easy for me. I don't. Yeah, classes are pretty basic. I don't know.
Good for you guys.
Yeah.
Would have been easy
honestly.
for me.
So your expectation was get a business degree and then just see where you can go with it. That's pretty it goes cross industries.
Yeah, I mean, like he was in finance, and I always had a thing, and I was very intrigued by investment. I didn't know what type of investment I want to get involved in, but I was like, all right, investment bankers make a lot of money. The guys on Wall Street make a lot of money. Maybe I'll go that route. And then when I got here, that wasn't the case. I started, my own app, which we can talk about. And that kind of derailed my whole plan because now I was on and off campus, every week. So the reason I didn't rush any of the frats was because I knew I wouldn't be here. So I was basically commuting from Wayne up in North Jersey,
What?
like 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was here once a week, driving down here, taking online classes, and then every weekend it was an education-based app. So I was on a different college campus. I went to 15 different schools every semester of my so it's like a 15-week semester, and I was literally on a different college campus every weekend.
So like talk about the app. Let's talk about what it did.
Yeah, for
what,
sure.
What made you create it in the first place? And
Yeah, this is a pretty funny story. So it was called Studunited, basically an academic marketplace. So a student would upload an assignment and then upload, I guess, a price for that assignment, right? Or vice versa. Somebody would say, hey, I'm good at a skill and I can offer help for this much money. So think of like an eBay or whatever you may have, but for academics. And the reason for that was I was a sophomore and I was pretty good at math, but I hated writing, and I was always asking writing majors, hey, write my papers and I'll help you with your math assignment.
It's a good trade.
And I was like, what, why not try to, I guess, ease or create more efficiency in that process because kids are doing it anyway. Realized there were some bumps in the road and it can be seen as some glorified cheating, which I guess it was at certain points. That wasn't like the intention of the app. But it caught some traction fast forward to now what we're doing because of the whole TikTok thing, which was great. We were like a top 100 app on the App Store at one point. It was great until it wasn't. We had all this traction and all this traffic, but I wasn't really set to handle all of it because I was doing what we were doing with the Johnny Drink stuff. And things were going wrong. Kids were getting blackmailed for quote unquote cheating and they were getting exploited from people that weren't even in college. And I took a step back and I was like, this isn't what I wanted out of this whole thing. I didn't want to hurt anybody or get anybody in trouble. So I froze operations, had to call some investors and say, your money's unfortunately gone and we're kind of closing up. But hard conversations to have, but it was a 4-year process that I definitely learned a lot about.
You got like right into the business. When you graduated, you were thrown right into the business world.
Yeah, well, I started it when I was a junior. I won Rowan's business competition, I guess. I forgot what it was called. Some sort of like business entrepreneur.
Yeah, entrepreneur of the year, I thought it was.
I don't know what it was. One of those competitions. And I saw it online, or he might have sent me an email like, hey,
Yes.
why don't you apply for one of these? And I was like, screw it, why not? Applied, ended up like passing the first round, second round, it was all online. And then the final round was a pitch. It was like top 5 people made it. And it was a pitch live to, I guess, a board of people and like 100 people in the crowd. I guess I did pretty well, and they announced that I won. I won like $4,000, which at that point I was like, this is the most money I've ever made ever. So it was pretty cool. And then you get taxes taken out, and it's not as cool as you thought it was. And I was like, wait a minute, this is like,
same comes coming.
Yeah, so I was like, that was April of my junior year, and then going into my senior year, we had like the official launch party. That's when I started like my whole road tour of going to different college campuses, promoting the app. For me, I was like, I'm gonna be the next Mark Zuckerberg. You really don't. You have zero expectations. You have no clue what to.
But I feel like
really-
that's better for you, though.
So mu-
it's so
yeah,
much
so
better for
much
you. Because
better.
if you get tied down to these other expectations, then you hold yourself back. But if
Would've
you
never
have
done it.
zero expectations,
Of course.
If I knew
Ignorance
that-
is bliss.
yeah,
Yeah, if I knew the amount of work for the amount of result that I got, I would have never done it.
Right.
It wouldn't have made sense logically to do. But looking back, I'm like, all right, thank God I did.
Yep.
Because then you can kind of apply those learnings elsewhere. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was very humbling. Hearing the word no. I actually went back to Rowan. I pitched the Rowan. You guys have an investment fund.
yeah, venture fund.
Yeah, I pitched you guys like 3 times. Said no every single time. And I was like, that's
You're like,
terrible.
I'm an alum.
Yeah, I was like, come on,
What
you can't
are
just
you
give me
doing?
money. I'm only looking for a couple of $1,000. You can't.
They give
that's
out a lot of
easy for
money
you
now,
guys.
too,
Yeah.
actually.
That's what I heard. And I now go back, I'm like,
Like 20K or something. Like that.
easy. Like they give it to everybody. So yeah, pitched here, but then I also pitched the school to buy the product itself, like the actual app and the technology behind it, because then we were kind of going into schools and tried to pivot a little bit. And that was humbling because they let me go through like the entire process, only to then tell me like at the final meeting, which was like 10 different people in a room, to be like, oh, this was like really good experience for you. Like, no, we're not gonna, purchase this. Or they really didn't have an intention of. They just wanted to kind of walk me through the ropes. And I was like, listen, I didn't need a learning lesson here. Like, I wanted to sell you because now I'm a professional. I'm 22 years old. I'm out of college. I didn't need this.
You were
This wasn't a
22.
class.
That's still really young.
But at that point, you felt old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wasn't a student anymore. This wasn't a class. I wasn't doing this for practice.
You're a
So
little irritated.
I was pissed. I was
Yeah.
super pissed. I was like, I'm never coming back here. I'm not doing anything for Rowan ever again.
he is.
And
But then-
here I am.
If I
Here I
read
am.
correctly in the research, because the correct research team that we have is amazing. But if I read, you turned down a job at Merrill Lynch, or did you turn down a job?
Yeah, I must. Yeah, I did actually. That's so funny. I don't remember half of that stuff, but I wanted to give a quick shout out to Mike Dominic, Professor Dominic, if he's still here, because at my pitch, he was the one that like really helped me through, and then post, he invested in the startup and has believed in me ever since. So he was the guy. He was one of the only reasons why I ever came back to Rowan. Not that like I'm holding a grudge or anything, but he asked for some help with like their future competitions. And I'm like, I don't care about anything else. Like, you help me out. I'm always happy to give back. So he was a guy that was pretty influential for me. And then, yeah, post-grad, I was, I guess, offered some jobs at Merrill, and I interned at another financial institute. And I just knew I wanted to do something different, didn't know what it was going to be. And I was like, hey, let me give this a run. Like you said, I was kind of young, and you never know where it's going to go. And it kind of springboarded into some other things. So, yeah.
Talk about your career, because you had a great career in finance.
Yeah,
so tell
financing.
us a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
so, okay, it goes back to Dr. Michael Brilia. And he introduced me to real estate. Now, here I am in college, and he blessed me with a lot of things. He made me the captain of the football team. Well, that made me responsible for a lot of things, right? So I was his gopher. Go get the subs, go get the bug juice before the games, go get the vans, go. Okay, great. I used to do this stuff, and I used to sit in his office and wait for him. And he would explain to me, he goes, well, what do you want to do after school? I'm like, I have no idea.
Like, can this
I
be a
just
job?
I want to go 4 for 4 today. I want to go 4 for 4 with 4 home runs. That's what I want to do.
Is he like, that's not a job?
Yeah, but that didn't happen. Right. So anyway, he was always putting emphasis on real estate and mortgage financing. His son, Jesse, had a real estate office in Ocean City, New Jersey. Dr. Brilia had a mortgage license. He was doing mortgages through Jesse's office while he's here, double dipping, doing his thing, which is fine. And I didn't know what he meant about mortgage financing. Again, I'm 20. How old am I? 21 years old. P.S. Graduated. He's like, you got to do mortgages. Let me teach you. Let me show you. I was like, Dr. B, I'm good. I got a job with Colgate-Palmolive. So I started with Colgate-Palmolive selling toothpaste. And I would talk to him all the time.
To who? Who are you selling toothpaste?
To retail supermarkets.
Okay, I just wanted to better understand that.
Yes,
I was hoping consumers, but I wasn't sure what the answer was myself.
Well, I started literally stocking shelves. Okay, the only difference between someone who works at the supermarket that pulls it out of the back room on what we call a U-boat and then puts it on a shelf, and me at the time was I would come through the front door, go get stuff in the back, and go put it on the shelves. Like, that's literally the difference. And they gave me a company car, and they paid me $25,000 a year. $25,000 a year when my wife was making 13.
You guys aren't banking it, man. You guys are living it.
And I had
Living large.
I had $108,000 mortgage on a house, and it was okay because times were different. Anyway,
What was your interest rate on your house?
it was 9.5%.
Yeah, that's really high.
It was 9.5% when I started. And then so P.S. the gentleman who got me that mortgage, I played summer baseball with, and it's just so interesting that the theme of what I would say has been my life and my greatest success has always involved and included baseball. Okay? Dr. Brilia, postgraduate, summer baseball, my friend who says to me, you got to come on the road with me. I'm like, what do you do? He says, I sell mortgages. And I'm like, Dr. Brilia said he sold mortgages. I talked to Dr. Brilia. He said, go with that kid. I go on the road. P.S. I take my friend up on the offer to go work with him. He's going to teach me because he's in North Jersey. And Dr. Brilia is down here, Cherry Hill. And I never looked back. That was 1992. I got hired January 2nd, 1992. And I just learned. And they said, here, answer this phone. Tell this person we'll call him back. And I'm like, Mountain Mortgage, sure. Someone's going to call you back. Boom. And I give the lead to the next person. And the phone would ring off the hook. But I'm not doing anything but learning at this point. So I worked really 3/4 of the year when I finally knew how to take the call and how to facilitate it. I made $75,000 my first 3/4 of a year. I tripled my income.
Making, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not never selling toothpaste again.
Yeah.
And from there, my career just exploded because I found in what Dr. Brilia had said was the upside to all this and getting in the loop of with the realtors, with the right people, this house is for sale. You want to buy it before it goes on the market? I'm like, sure. I bought real estate in Ocean City because of Dr. Brilia. And he knows this. I raised my children in Ocean City and in Wayne. And the short story there with, like I said, this introduction by way of Dr. B, I owned as many as 3 properties in Ocean City and 4 properties up in North Jersey. And I was playing real life Monopoly because I was young, I was hustling, I didn't really think about all this debt I had. I felt invincible. I'm like, no, I'm good. Let's go. And now, as you get older, you're like, okay, hold on. Let's pump the brakes. Let's clean the table of some of this, and let's start reinvesting. So, anyway, I'm very comfortable. That was my career, 30 years. COVID comes around, and that's when this thing with Johnny Drinks takes off. But I'll let John share the first glimpse of this thing and how it actually played itself out.
Yeah, please do. Tell us how this all started.
Yeah, a month before COVID actually hit, February, and I had TikTok on my phone for like a week at this point. Didn't really know how to use it. And he's making a Manhattan cocktail. And it's interesting because at the time, I didn't really know much about drinking other than just being at college parties and drinking whatever I can get. So he's making this Manhattan cocktail, and I've never really seen one yet. And so he's making it, and I put some Frank Sinatra in the background while I'm recording it. And I post the video. We go out to dinner that night. And I check my phone, and it's going, what we would consider viral at that point. We didn't really know what was going on. We had people commenting, telling us we're doing it wrong. We didn't know we were doing it. We weren't bartenders, so we had bartenders yelling at us, and I'm like, dude, what are you yelling at? You know, why do you care so much?
Right.
And then it was like a fun little like joke within the family, like, oh, look at them. And I changed my name immediately because when I was doing this Stu United stuff in Rowan, I was Johnny Stu United on my Instagram. So it's like, all right, I'm Johnny Drinks now. We made a couple more videos, quarantine hit, had nothing else to do. And now we're like, okay, we're going to drink every day. We might as well film it, So we had cocktails, and we're now Googling stuff to do because, again, we're not bartenders. So we don't know how to make these different cocktails that people are asking for us to make. We went pretty parabolic, and now we could do anything, and people are watching us. Like, the life cycle of a creator is pretty interesting, especially nowadays. Like, once these platforms identify you're the it guy, they'll shove your stuff to everybody, right? So we were now the popular people on this platform, so we posted videos every day, and people were loving it. So we were growing tens of thousands of followers every single day. And it wasn't long until then we realized, like, okay, yeah, the cocktails are cool, but again, that wasn't the reason they were there. The reason was just the father and son relationship. And again, it was like one of those things, like, we don't know what we did, like we just happened to be, I guess, likable people, and people aren't used to, especially on social media, a genuine relationship between a father and son. And we realized a lot of that as we kept going. So we started doing more food content. And then when we can travel, we did travel content and life advice stuff. So it wasn't long till I started realizing we can make money doing this, because I was always intrigued by the space. When I had my startup, I remember reaching out to other like influencers and being like, oh, how much can you make with, how much to post about my app? And they'd be like $1,000. And at that point I'd be like, you can make that much money posting a picture on Instagram? Are you kidding me? And so I remember those things, and now I'm doing it. And I'm like, wait a minute, I have as many followers as that guy did when he told me that he charged $1,000. So I'm trying to put math together, and then I'm asking for it as a rate to brands, and brands are accepting, and it just didn't make sense at the time. And we're like, all right,
like, what is happening?
Yeah, like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So, fast forward now, it's a legitimized business, and it's obviously treated a little bit differently than just we're having fun in the basement. But yeah, it wasn't long until we were like identified from brands and other people that these guys aren't just some father and son playing around. They make good content that's inspiring and entertaining and educational, and so that's our goal, I guess.
I think we're the only father-son or duo that makes cocktails. I mean, I don't know.
Sure
there's plenty of other
food.
food. No, but I don't. Do you really recognize? There's none that come to my mind, right? We have plenty of friends that are in this space making cocktails, and then there's plenty of father and son duos that do food content. That seems to be a real popular place. But as I now reflect on him even saying that, like, I don't know any other father-son cocktail making influencers. And one of the funnier things about how he's kind of unraveled that. So it's 2020, we're in COVID, and he's telling me, Dad, we got to keep doing this. So I'm like, what are we doing? Like, seriously, you got me making drinks and you're videoing. Well, where
yeah,
is
because
this
what
going?
do you, I mean, at that point, you're still working, right?
I'm still working, and I am busy. 2020 was one of the busiest
I moved to that year
because everybody's refinancing, rates are low.
Shifting, yep.
I'm slammed.
Yep.
20 and 21 were two of the better years in the longest time that I had in the mortgage business. So I'm like, all right, listen, I'll do these videos with you. Here's the deal. All the swag that comes in, because they were sending us T-shirts and cream and hats and bottles of this and
because they want you to put it in your content, right? So
yeah,
they
want us to use it
too. Yeah. At that point, they just wanted us to wear their shirts.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm humoring him. I'm like, all right, look, this is cute. I got a real job. I'll do these with you, but all the swag's mine.
Oh, so you
And
wanted to
and
keep
can
all
make
the
money.
lotion.
I said, you can have all the money, whatever the money is. I said, if it really gets to become like a 6-figure thing one day, then we'll talk. And he comes to me like, I don't even know what month it was in 20. He's like, you want to talk? I'm like, about what? He goes, because we just made it. Like,
I should have
what?
never told him.
That,
I'm like, what are you talking
It's like,
about?
yeah, it's tough out here.
a lot of lotions.
Yeah,
a lot
sure.
of,
Also, I
Yeah.
can't handle all
He's
this
just
lotion. Please take it.
Yeah. He
these
should have
shirts.
known. But anyway, so he says it to me. Now I'm like, wait a second. This is a business? How? Okay, so now we keep doing our thing. And then 21 comes along. I'm still busy, juggling all our thing. And, at the end of the day, 2022 rolls around. And now the mortgage industry, the faucet shuts off. I mean, it shuts off. Rates go up. My friends that are doing this as long as I'm doing it, they're sucking pond water. They're not doing any business. They lost 60 and 70% of their volume overnight.
wow.
Differently than 2018 and differently than other times in economic markets. 2008, differently than 2008 when I thought the world was coming to an end
So
financially.
did I graduated that year. I
Yeah, that was
graduated in
hard.
2008.
That was a
tough.
real wait a second.
Banking crisis. Was
Banking crisis, financial crisis, mortgage-backed security crash, crumbled. The whole thing was like, whoa. My Wells Fargo stock at the time, it was $35, $38, and it went down to $6.
Yikes.
And I remember Citibank going down to like $2. And I was like, what is going on? Like, you don't want to panic.
No,
Yeah.
big
Especially when you're
institutions
raising-
are now
Gotta leave it.
struggling.
Well, you don't want
leave
to panic and you're raising a family,
Yeah.
and I don't want to go home and tell my wife, I think I don't know what. So
I got nothing.
anyway,
We
having,
got nothing.
having gone through all of that, 2022 comes. 22 was more painful, believe it or not, because it was lasted so much longer. Turns off, business is gone, and rates are up, and nobody's doing any business.
Because nobody's buying houses.
Still going on that way.
Because people are
Was it-
buying houses, but
People were
for way more than they're worth.
They were overextended. There wasn't a chance to get out from underneath. They had been, again, overextended from years prior. And, attrition kicks in. People die. People inherit. People can't make payments. I mean, the whole economic world changes. Young people who were in the process of maybe thinking of buying, all of a sudden, I can't buy. I'm going to go sign a lease for a year. Well, now they're out of the market.
Yeah.
So they got higher rates, boxed out a generation in leasing. They made leasing and renting fun. He's in a place now in Jersey City. He's got a rooftop pool. He's got it's a party. So why would you, as a 20-something-year-old, want to own a home and settle down?
They got to take care of and all that.
You can make a case, and it's a valid one, about renting versus buying.
Right.
Rent, experience, lifestyle, invest the difference.
Yep.
So anyway, those are all some of the key points that went on. And as I said in 22, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to pivot. Now
So were you like, I'm going
to
to go, like, was that a tough decision to go from like something very tangible that like you knew for all those years to
No,
go to like
it was so
being an
refreshing.
influencer, creating content?
Oh,
like,
it's just,
It's the easiest decision ever.
yeah, I love
Make videos for a living.
But so how did you pitch this then? Because so
He did. I told him. He
like,
told me.
walk us through the show. Like, hey, Dad, we're going to do the show about making drinks, and then in the middle we're going to talk about X, Y, and Z. And are you drafting out show content for every episode, or is it more organic, or what does it look like?
yeah. Well, how do you do that?
It depends. Like the whole, when you look at like creators, everybody's different, right? Like, so for us, things are always compounding off of another video, right? So you always take a step back, like, how are they so creative and how do they think of all these different ideas? It's just a degree different than the last idea. And you may not see it as the end viewer, but for us, it's like, okay, we made a drink with an orange and I threw him the orange and it worked well. Okay, let me try that now with a pineapple. And that worked out. Let me try with a watermelon. And like, so these things are all very similar. So long as we identify like, what are the core statement pieces of our content that people want to see, right? They want to hear certain things. So they want to hear me say, hey, Dad. They want to hear the ring tap on a glass. They want to see, maybe a clip of him doing whatever, right? So we have identified, let's say, those like 4 or 5 main pillars of our content. Everything else stays the same, or everything else then can change. As long as those are there, the environment can maybe change. We can do it with different drinks. We can now try it with food. But once you start making content, it's a lot easier to do than it may seem. It's just like repetition. So like to try to plan out the next year for me to make content, it's impossible and it's probably disadvantageous. Like you're trying to now build ideas off of ideas that don't exist. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'd rather now work it into like a flow of constantly knowing that I'm going to be creative based on what I just did versus like trying to predict the future and be like, all right, I have, my next 100 videos done and they're ready to go.
Now that Italian cheesesteak you made a couple of weeks
Oh,
ago.
how good was
Oh
that?
my gosh. I was like, please bring me some.
So
Like,
How
who's
good
the
was
cook?
that?
Like, are you
So is it
guys
Johnny
all-
Johnny Eats now? We have Johnny Eats. Is that what we're
they
doing?
do
See
Johnny
that.
everything.
Johnny drinks and eats.
well, we do all. I mean,
Tell them how we came to that.
yeah, that's
That
that's
looks yummy.
that's actually a good example
Great
too,
idea,
right?
great
So
idea.
we've identified like a couple of different things. Right, the drink stuff was cool. That's why we named it Johnny Drinks. The reality is to be siloed in the cocktail space is a little bit limiting, like with age restrictions and regulations and trying to run ads and work with brands. It's hard, right? So the fact that we were able to do stuff like food is so attractive to everybody. Everyone likes food. Not everybody drinks. So you make something like a steak sandwich, so long as you know how to make content and make the good food, somebody's going to watch that. But that one, for an example, is a good looking video, but you use things to entice people to comment, right? So him calling an Italian sandwich or an Italian cheesesteak, we knew we were going to get comments about like, this isn't this is not an Italian cheesesteak.
Right.
What is that? So you got people that love the sandwich because it looks really good. And then you got other people saying like, that's not what you think it is. So it was kind of intentional and he kind of made it up on the fly and it makes sense to call it an Italian cheesesteak. But then it also makes sense for people to be like, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're doing.
So in content creation, are the negative comments just as useful and
They're more useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because you don't want to become. We could, if we really wanted to, we could make cocktails all wrong and get more comments. But you have a rep to uphold, right? So if this is a business for you and you want brands to take you serious, then you have to start making stuff right. You know what I mean? So it's like little fractions of being wrong that are okay. But for us, we got to make sure that people are learning from our content, and that's something that's like a little bit weird. You put something out there, and you don't really know what to expect from other people. But if you're putting something out there and then someone's running around saying, oh, well, Johnny Drinks make a drink like this, now that's right, and that dude gets laughed at because we were wrong,
Yeah.
that's a bad rep to have.
Right.
yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
a balancing act for certain. Like, and to his point, I said, right, we did, yesterday, I did a video, and I made a pesto sauce. And I said, I'm going to get ripped for this, just so you know, because he's not certain on a lot of things, especially when it comes to, let's say, cooking, how to make his own pesto. He
Are you
just
the cook
hasn't
in the
done it before.
house or is Jen
No,
the cook in the house?
Jen's a great cook. Jen cooks. I'm very comfortable cooking. Like, no one's,
You don't cook, you grill.
I do a lot of grilling,
That's
but
part
there-
cooking.
also back up again, the time when he wasn't around, my wife will tell you, I worked at Colgate. Like I said, I would come home, I would start cooking. She would come home after school, she would be home by 4:30 or so from school. I was home doing nothing at 2:00 because I'm a road sales guy who's just stocking shelves. I spent more time filling up my road journal where
Your
I
mileage.
was than where I really was. Anyway, so I used to do a lot of the cooking because I was home first. Anyway, I made a pesto just yesterday, and I said, I'm going to get ripped because I'm not using pinoli nuts. I'm going to use pistachios. So if you know how to make a pesto, it's basil, it's olive oil, it's Parmesan cheese, it's garlic, and it's pinoles. I used pistachios. And I picked up how to do that from one of the chefs that we had worked with in the past who just gave me the idea. No, there's no wrong way. But someone will say, that's not a pesto.
Right.
You
Well,
didn't
I
use
feel like if it has
pinoles.
basil, it's a pesto.
Well, but
It's green, tastes the
it's
same.
green.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
You wouldn't eat it.
I
You
don't even.
Eat,
Yeah,
you don't
try-
eat anything green.
I don't eat anything green.
Oh, it's
sorry.
green now.
oh, it's so great.
I don't
So-
do vegetables.
What's it like for the two of you to work together as a father-son duo? Because I had the pleasure
So
of kind
easy.
of behind the scenes today, which was kind of fun.
This was
So you tell me then. You
this
answer the question.
This was
Oh, I
Yeah,
can't
no,
answer.
that is actually a good
You
question.
answer the
No,
question.
no. You didn't get a real
think it's
taste.
like?
You didn't get a real taste of it. That's
Jess,
not-
Okay,
What do
so
you
what
think
was
it's like?
different today? What
This
was
is
different
easy.
today?
Can we ask Jen what she thinks it's like?
yeah, bring her in and ask her.
No,
Yeah.
what you sauce? What
So
did you think?
you two remind me very much of family members that I have. So I have some Italian family members. I literally called my husband on lunch and I said, I am interviewing Uncle Jerry and Anthony and Aunt Roxy today. That is
Who's Aunt Roxy?
literally-
Which
that's
one?
My Jen. She's my Aunt Roxy. Yeah, I feel like it's definitely an interesting dynamic to watch you two work together because it's like you have had a successful career.
Yeah.
You have successful content creation and you're both coming together to create content together. You butt heads a little
Yeah,
bit in the
absolutely.
process. What's that like?
1000%. It's like butting heads. It's hard to work for and work with family, and there are countless people that one of my favorite stories is we went down. There's a cigar company. It's called Alec Bradley, and a friend now, Alan Rubin is the father. His son is Alec. His son is Bradley, hence the name Alec Bradley. Now, this gentleman sold his company for a lot of money, millions of dollars, right?
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. So this is the guy.
Just a little bit of money.
Don't be low. It's public information.
70 million.
That's
$70 million.
You're not giving out his bank
upper
statements.
yeah, I think it's
Okay,
up around
$70 million. Okay, anyway, my point is, we go down, we spend time with them. Alan and I, we hit it off like that. He's like, how do you do it? I'm like, well, do what? He goes, how do you work with your son? He goes, you seem to get along so well, and you do this. And I said, well, I'm glad you think that, because I'm so angry at him right now. I want to punch him. And he's like, I can't get through to my kids. It drives me nuts, John. It drives me crazy. I said, take a deep breath. I feel your pain. This is what we signed up for, and this is the changing of the guard.
Yeah.
In more than one respect. He goes, I can't work with these kids. I can't work with them. I'm like, and then he ultimately sells it. And again, he created this unbelievable business, but the kids still said, Dad, we could do this. We're going to do this different. We're going to do this better.
So it's hard, is it hard for you to take the feedback, and is it hard for you to give the feedback?
Well, here's the thing. Like, the difference between that example and then our example is, like, that dad is clearly the one who started and knows most about that space, right? Like,
Right.
he has experience on him. It's weird because I have more experience on him when it comes to this, right? Like, so having to tell my dad what to do and tell him, like, hey, you're wrong for these reasons, it's an awkward conversation, because it's like, you don't ever want to have to tell your dad he's wrong. You want to just be like, all right, well, I have to, he's the boss, I have to listen to him. But I know that's not the case, and it bleeds for sure into, like, our actual relationship.
Yeah.
So the people that say, like, oh, like, it's easy to then, like, shut it off, it's not true. It's definitely taken a toll on us as, like, father and son. That dynamic, I don't think, will ever be the same unless we stop doing this forever, because it's hard to see each other as, like, father and son when we really are.
Right.
They've become
almost
business
100%
partners.
business
We're partners.
you know?
It is, and that's a great point. And that doesn't mean, again, he's absolutely right. Like anything else, there's a shelf life to this. There's a shelf life to me. I don't know when that ends.
I don't know.
I
You
think
played
there's a shelf
baseball
left for
today.
all of us, actually.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. There's the next greatest whatever father-son duo is
Yeah,
just
sure.
around the corner
Yeah, sure.
somewhere, and God bless them. Have at it. It's okay. But I did run a business and built an unbelievable career for myself, not because of what I did personally, but because of the people I surrounded myself with. Dr. Brillia being one of them, the guy who introduced me for my baseball team. The then and the pieces of the puzzle that when I was at my, I would say that one of the high points of my career, I had a branch of powerhouse guys and girls in the country. We were top 3 in the country in this little nothing of a town in Wayne. We did more business than all the surrounding community banks in my one little branch. And so, it's about building and growing and powering through as a team. And those are things that I can't let go of. I don't want to let go of. But these are things that for a young guy like him, this is an island. It's just me and him. And there is no conglomeration. There is no scaling this necessarily into bringing more people into the community, although there are ways. We haven't just quite leveraged them yet, and we're going to probably do more of that, right, in finding our next path with some of the things that people are putting in front of us, but it's by way of opportunities.
So social content's not the only thing that you're doing, though, right? You have a podcast, you have a website where you can purchase some branded gear. Talk to us about some of those things.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think every life cycle of a creator sort of starts the same when you want to start making money. The first dollars normally you make are going to be from the platforms themselves, right? Like, the platform's going to pay you pretty nominally, like, just to post and keep posting. So whether it's on YouTube, Google AdSense, or Instagram has like a real bonus kind of, I guess, like a competition you can get, whatever. So those will be your first dollars in, and it won't be that much money until you really start getting some crazy views. Next is normally going to be like brand deals, right? Brand's going to reach out, try to give you free stuff or pay you on commission, right? And then I would say brands start getting really involved with you and want you to become like the face of the brand, right? Or really pay you for 6 to 12 months of a campaign. And then normally what happens is creators will realize, okay, if I'm getting paid, insert crazy dollar amount here from brand X, there must be a reason why, right? Like I must be providing a tremendous amount of value to them from a marketing standpoint. What if I just went and made that product myself, and now I have built in millions of dollars worth of marketing for myself, right? So that's normally like the, I guess, last step, or like one of the final steps as a creator, is to identify what your audience would be most likely to buy from you, and then go and market it as well as you can. The reality of what we do is, you know, we've sold bourbon before, and that has always done super, super well. Selling liquor is very hard. We can't make liquor in our basement and sell it to you online, right? So there's a lot of people that have to get involved in between us and the customer, and we have to make sure that we find the right people to do so. So I do think that's like that's like an eventual goal for us, is to start some sort of liquor brand. But besides that, you know, even accessory things, like we're talking about doing rimming salts for cocktails and doing some sort of flavor enhancers to liquid. There's always different things you can be doing. It's just a matter of like how many silver bullets do you want to use, right? Because if you're known as the guys that are always dropping new products, your audience is going to get tired and bored of you, right? The reality is not every influencer is a Kardashian, right? Like the fact that we say we're all influencers, I think is a little bit ridiculous. Like her influence and at a press of a button can sell millions of dollars worth of product overnight. It's not the same as somebody with a couple million followers on TikTok, you know? So I think realizing that is pretty important for the creator. Don't jump the gun and just start, you know, selling t-shirts. Build your community, build your value for other brands, make as much money as you can. And then when you really are confident in like your community and that you have a direction of what you want to go and sell and you have passion behind it, then you go and do it. But don't rush the gate, because everyone goes and does that now. So
we're this deep in and we didn't ask this question yet. What? Favorite drinks?
Oh, that's easy. I have them tattooed on me. Espresso martini, and a Negroni are my two favorites.
All right. I can get down with that.
Yeah.
That's shaking
Is
his
that
head.
crazy? He has it tattooed on him.
I don't know.
Where is it?
What that is.
Let's see.
Is that crazy?
Oh, it's on his ankle.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That's,
yeah.
That's a legit tattoo there.
I have several. Top three. Manhattan is one.
That's my favorite.
I love Manhattan. That was actually the first drink that went viral, but that's why, because I like the Manhattan. The other is a Vesper Martini. And I love the Vesper because the Vesper has
What, is that the brand?
Story behind it. No.
Oh.
A Vesper Martini story has to do with James Bond and Vesper Lynn, the character that was his girlfriend attraction in Casino Royale, in the book that Ian wrote about Casino Royale and that cocktail. James Bond orders that cocktail and he explains how to make it. 3 parts gin, 1 part vodka, Lillet, which is a distilled wine, and a twist of lemon. And the most notable phrase is shaken, not stirred. That's from that scene in Casino Royale. And then beyond that is the reason he doesn't want his cocktails stirred and shaken. When you shake a cocktail, you break it down. And there's ice that turns, obviously, water and dilutes the cocktail. So supposedly keeps him a little sharper than if you.
Okay,
It does break down the cocktail because now you're adding water into it. Versus if you stirred it,
I stir my cocktail.
It's strong.
Like
So
no wonder why.
So stir it. You'll get the.
Oh, I
you
do.
Hit it quick.
Trust me.
Hit it quick and pour it out.
Yeah.
That's it. But I like that, and I also I really like the Negroni, and it was the Negroni came into play for us just when we really learned about gin. No one drank gin.
Yeah, I don't.
No one
I
minds
can't
ever
get down with
drank
that.
gin. Tanqueray and Bombay. Tanqueray and Bombay, unfortunately, unless they want to work with us, they are not.
The door's
they're
still
not your
open.
go-to gins. So we had a gin company that we got introduced to, and fantastic gunpowder gin. Went to Ireland, saw how they made it, and fell in love with gin differently. And then found how to make a nice Negroni. So those are the top 3: the Manhattan, Vesper, and the Negroni.
So we've talked about some of the hardships of working as a father-son duo. What are some of the best parts?
I get to work with them all the time. I get to see them all the time. It really is. I mean, as hard as it is sometimes to want to just get him out of the house and get back to whatever, and he wants to go back to home. But I love knowing that he's coming over. I love the moments where we get it right and we don't contest one another about the creativity. Because again, what he doesn't necessarily always identify with is, well, where do you think your creativity comes from?
That's like, this is, you
Okay.
got this from
Like, so,
me.
so where do you think
They're
your
already
camera-
fighting again now. Here we go.
No, but so this is
Bite my tongue.
this is pretty
Ridiculous.
funny.
That's
Right?
ridiculous to say.
My wife is creative. She's was an art major here, right? She's artistic. She's creative, but differently than Dad. I was also very artistic. I could draw. I could sit here and I could draw abstract things. It's not even a problem. But when I was here, I was the guy who carried around the big camcorder and videoed us playing baseball. We went on a Florida trip. I videoed. I've been in front of the camera, my own camera, selfie mode, filming.
Before
all
selfies
of it.
were selfies.
Before everybody. I videoed my wife and I in an 8mm going for my daughter to be born Victoria to the hospital in the car, doing it like this, handheld driving, and Jen like, can you put the camera
She's
down?
like, I'd like us all to make it to the hospital alive.
Yeah.
Put the camera down.
Difference is in our creativity sometimes. He has his ideas, I have my ideas. I can't help but be creative. He's creative, and that's...
And it's probably good that you live separately now, right? You can do
Yes,
your
that
own
doesn't
thing and
answer
kind
the
of like,
question. The
yeah.
question
So
was
yeah,
what
I
you
said the
like
best
about
part I
me.
like about you
he
coming
said
over. I
it.
did
He
answer
likes
it.
seeing you. He likes seeing your face.
I love seeing you. I love you.
Oh.
You're my guy.
See?
Oh, see, this is beautiful.
So what's
okay.
what's
All
your...
right,
so
now
let-
it's your turn.
Yeah,
turn.
go ahead.
What I like about working with
Stay
them?
on
Yeah.
point.
Well, it is funny, right? Because you really don't know what you have until people tell you, right? So in the beginning of this whole thing, it was, again, we didn't know why we were so quote unquote popular and why everybody liked us, and then the comments start telling you why, right? Like, man, that guy's house is great, or their relationship is awesome, and that drink looks amazing, and all these different things, and you start getting, again, because content is content, right? You're getting the highlight reel of somebody's life. It's not reality, but we try to make it as close to real as possible. And so I think we did a really good job creating like this Renaissance man out of my dad, right? So anything that he didn't know, we would brush up on Google, and we'd be like, okay, this is how you do it. So people online thought he knew everything. And so me at 24, 25, knowing that, yeah, he's a good dad, but everybody has flaws, like nobody's perfect, reading comments that are like, you better feel so blessed and you're so lucky and he's the perfect guy. But you see him from the other light and you're like, you almost start getting annoyed, right? You're like, well, he's not that perfect. You know, he definitely has his flaws.
Everybody
and-
slow down.
yeah. And
He
and-
Googled
Yeah,
that.
right,
He doesn't
exactly.
actually know how to
and,
do it.
And I
Exactly.
found myself early on, like sometimes self-sabotaging what I did by like trying to water him down or make him look bad in certain moments. And
Yes.
finally I took a step back and I was like, what am I doing? Right? Like, number one, what I have is truly special. Not everybody has a relationship with their dad, let alone a good relationship with their dad. And number two, like, I'm building this brand with him. So if I have to make him look good by making me look bad by asking him how to tie my shoe, I don't care. I'm fine
He
doing
did teach
that.
you how to tie your
Right,
shoe
of
at
course.
one
At
point.
one
Yeah.
point, at one point,
It's the creative side coming out.
right. So I finally, and this is probably as of recent, realized the impact we're having on other people. And that really is, as cliche as it sounds, like the true beauty of what we're doing and what I like about working with my dad is that we are helping out, I think, a generation of guys or boys that have forgotten how to be real men, and they may just not have the right influence around them. And hopefully we can be those influences, right? Like, I'm 28. If you're a young 20, you can kind of learn from both of us, you know, or if you're a dad and you're struggling how to connect with your son, maybe you can learn like the intrinsics of what we do good. And that could just be finding something that you guys can relate about and have fun doing, you know? So at the end of the day, yeah, it's a lot of work. And would I be maybe happy doing it on my own or maybe separating some work and personal life with him? Yeah, but it's the greater good is definitely there.
So is the podcast piece a little bit of separation?
The
'Cause is
podcast
that
piece is
kinda your
separation.
thing?
It wasn't. It started out as both of us, and then we quickly realized that we needed something alone, right? We just were every episode we were butting heads, and the way he works from corporate America is very structured, and I'm not used to that. And the podcast space is very loose. Like, things can change on a dime. We have guests that telling us they're coming at 11 o'clock. It's 10:30. They say, hey, we can't make it today.
Sometimes guests take batting practice.
Sometimes
unexpectedly
guests take
before
batting
the
I mean,
practice.
we have, if I had $1 for every guest that has done that here,
right? So
I'd have a $10 bill.
So
or
it
something.
would be
I don't know
exactly.
what
It'd be stuff like that happen, and
Yeah.
he'd be like, "Well, did you make sure you?" And I was like, "You're gonna blame me for them not coming right now. Like, this is not." It started becoming more harmful to the overall brand, right? The breadwinner of what we're doing, the flagship product, quote unquote, which is Johnny Drinks, than helping out the podcast. And he was never, and he admitted too, like, he always says, I'm not a podcast guy.
not a
I don't like
podcaster.
doing this. We only did it for the reason that iHeartMedia reached out to us, and we don't work with them anymore. So this was my, I guess, way of doing something alone
But he's right. He needed to do this on his own, and he's better serving himself and his own vision by himself. I was getting in the way, and that's probably one of the hardest things to understand as a parent, let alone a person. You can understand as a person, but as a parent, you always think you're going to help. You always and no, I wasn't helping them. It was
hard to be a
stagnant. I was holding
parent.
them back.
I have very little humans. It's really even hard when they're little, but it must be hard even to kind of see him. He's a full-grown adult here.
Yeah.
You know, it must be even. You probably still see little Johnny sometimes.
Little kids, little problems. Big kids, big problems.
Yeah,
and that you will never forget. And you get older, you're like, man, I thought this was going to get easier.
Yeah. Oh,
and
don't tell me that.
Well, it changes, but your worries are different, So, but again, that's just part of being a responsible parent, because there's plenty of parents that just say, oh, you're on your own, kid. Good luck, whatever. That's not me. That's not Jen. But yeah, this has been an incredible opportunity. It's been a blessing. It's been a learning experience, and all these other things, to his point about sharing with a community that speaks volumes back, how they appreciate us and they appreciate the relationship. The greatest compliment I've received, and there's so many that flood my head, but one specific guy comes up to us. I think we were in Vegas. He goes, Johnny Drinks, you taught me how to make a tie on my wedding.
Oh.
I'm like, on your wedding? You didn't know how to make a tie until you got married? I go, seriously. I said to him,
you probably berated
when
him
you say
before,
on your wedding, you mean like that day? He goes, that day, I didn't know how to do it. I watched your video, I did it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, that's giving back. That's the responsible part for me. And I professed to him earlier on, I said, listen, if we're going to do this, I have to drop nuggets. I've got to give nuggets, whether they want them or not. It's important to me to feel like we're doing something responsible. And to the other point John said, he went his direction with the podcast, and I just started this little nothing page.
Come on.
It's called Johnny Thinks. Okay, so it's Johnny Drinks, and then
I see what we're
Johnny
doing here.
Thinks. My daughter Diana said to me, Dad, we got to do this for you. She set up the account, just do this. And as things come to my mind, I do it. I may only get like 100 views or 10,000 views. It doesn't matter. But it's things in my head that I want to share. And for the 1 or 2 or 10 or 15 people that find value in it, great. For those that want to hate on it, go ahead. I expect that too, right? So it's just part of, again, I think the added responsibility of trying to deliver something outside of, hey, let's drink and have at it. That's not the message. It's be responsible, right? Show up, be a constructive person, knowing you're gonna, make a mistake. So it's okay. Regroup and get another shot at it. So I think that gives this page certainly gives us the opportunity to communicate that.
So Rob, I have to tell the listeners that post-pod, Dad John ripped your alcohol choice.
He did. He said the stuff that I'm using is basically like,
garbage.
Garbage.
I think was the word that he used.
But I'm going to switch it up.
Okay.
Because he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to up it. We're going to up our game.
You like.
I do like what I like. But I when it comes to that space, I'll try some things.
Okay.
I got 2 suggestions I'm going to use.
This cocktail's kind of like a dessert, like you're up for whatever that could look like.
Actually, I call it a dessert at the Applebee's. I do.
At the Applebee's.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, we didn't tell them that you go to have your cocktails
at the Applebee's. We can't tell them that now. Don't let them know that. Don't even mention that.
Okay, well, they're going to find out when they listen to this podcast.
Yeah, so no, but I got 2 good ideas from them. They were so much fun to talk to because it sounds
really
like
fun.
But it's like it's not even a gimmick. It's natural energy from those 2. Mm-hmm. They're just naturally, I think it works really well. That father-son dynamic.
Yeah.
And John, we could talk to him like all day long as far as all his stories and stuff like that he goes. But
I know, all the Glassboro State stuff, the memories, the
but
baseball
they fit well
stuff.
together. They fit really well together.
They're a good team. I can't wait to see what they do in the future because I have a feeling this is not the last we're going to see of them.
You've been listening to Beyond the Brown and Gold on Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM. You can find more episodes on your favorite podcasting platforms by searching for Beyond the Brown and Gold or Rowan Radio On Demand.